Welcome to the Sedona Soul Sisters show, down-to-earth discussions on spirituality, metaphysics, paranormal, and healing topics. The Sedona Soul Sisters are Roz Reynolds, Terry Ann Russell, myself, Ivy Renew, and actually Melissa Brace is back with us. So we have offices in Sedona, Arizona, where we see clients from all over the world. Today's topic is telepathic communication between soulmates. And if you join us, you can ask questions. You can put it in the chat room if you want to. I was looking up something about telepathy and just how it's been studied for over 30 years at Princeton University. And so there is legitimate scientific proof of the existence of telepathic communications. And that was called a peer program, is what that study was, if you want to look it up. And as those studies at Princeton have shown, telepathy is instant across any distance. You could be communicating with your soulmate who's on the other side of the planet or next door to you. And that it's stronger with someone who you click with. And since it knows no distance and you can't think of a bigger click than your soulmate, that makes sense that you would have that kind of connection with a soulmate. It's the purest form of exchanging information, ideas, and emotions without speaking or writing a word. And I was reading something yesterday that was so interesting about the Tower of Babel in the Bible and how it said when speech was introduced to man is when things went downhill, because with spoken word, you can influence people. And let's think about like spin doctors in our modern day world who can make things sound so much better, or commercials that can influence you to buy things or feel or think a certain way. But with telepathic communications, it's just pure communication. It's on a higher dimension, a higher frequency. So soulmates have a deeper bond of love and understanding, and they accept each other on spiritual, physical levels, and basically it's unconditional love. Most soulmates develop this telepathic communication on an unconscious level, but in case you have a soulmate, all of us have a soulmate in our life of some kind, right? We're not just talking about romantic partners. My daughter is a soulmate of mine. Friends can be a soulmate. You know, your parents, your uncle, your aunt, you know, your coworkers can be a soulmate. So you have a soulmate in your life and you don't have telepathic communications with them yet, either you probably are and not recognizing for what it is, or it's still in development. So don't worry about it. So ladies, let's talk about you two. So I think you two are soulmates at a certain level, you, Roz and Terry Ann. So do you two have a telepathic communication?
Definitely.
How does it work for you?
Huh?
How does that work for you?
Well, it's been really interesting because I seem to be able to connect with her, like we'll have the same thought and then we'll say it when we get together. I was getting this. I thought, what did you get this? So pretty fascinating.
That is one of the ways, thinking the same thing.
And I felt that when the first time I met Roz.
Yeah, we had a very instant connection. And it was pretty interesting because, you know, Terry Ann was not feeling good about coming to a session in my office because she thought that I was going to think that she was nuts because of everything she was experiencing. So it was pretty ironic because our eyes connected and she sat down in my office and then instantly it was like, zzz, and
I
it
know
was,
you.
I, you know, and when you think about it over the course of your life, I mean, you do meet these soulmates in various forms in their own life. I mean, I can't say that the majority of soulmates that I've connected with have been romantic. It's more like they've been friends, clients. My friend Joan is here today. We met when we were in 4th grade, and we have always had a connection, no matter where we've lived, you know. So I think you have that energetic frequency together. And the interesting thing about Terry Ann was um, when she started telling me what her experiences were, and she was like, "How, I don't even know if I can tell you this." And I was just like, "Well, you should feel good about it because, obviously I'm not judging you. I mean, I'm relating to you. I get it." So it was very powerful. And it's interesting because even when we don't see each other for a few days and we don't talk, one of us will text the other one, and we know what's going on. And I think I do that with you too, Ivy.
Hmm.
Like I'll be over in my house and I'll be like going, "What's going on with Ivory today? Something's happening."
There's been plenty of times when I was under dark attack and you will text me at this odd hour and go, "Are you okay? Is something happening at your house?" And I hadn't even like reached out to you. Like I know I can reach you telepathically because I've done that, and I've like called
Oh,
out to you telepathically and you texted me. So that I know can definitely happen. Um, with my daughter, it's been, I think it was most evident really, as a child, I knew what was going on with her. Like I knew her emotions, I knew just that strong connection. Even if I wasn't with her, she would spend her summers with her father later, and I would know, like I would just know something's wrong, and I'd pick up the phone and call her, and she's crying and she's telling me what's going on, and and she'd been fine up to that point, and but I would just know that she's in distress. Well, now she's a mother with her own children, and still I know, like I'll know if she's sick, I'll know it, and I'll call, and sure enough, she's got bronchitis yet again, or if she's having a rough time with a relationship in her life, I'll know it. I'll just hear it in my head and call, and I know she needs to talk to me, and she does it with me too. So that's one of
mother.
the ways,
Yeah.
and I think everybody listening has that kind of connection with somebody. And the problem is that so many people think soulmates are about romantic relationships purely, that they don't even realize they have these other soulmates in their life. When
I think
people say, "Who's
especially
my
our children.
soulmate?" I'm like, which one? You've got, a whole host of soulmates.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the best point of all, because especially our children. There's just, I mean, I felt like I was very connected to all of my children in utero. Like I just felt like you know, I knew them. So it was very interesting. And then, of course, once they're born, you do have that. It's my oldest son was just fascinating to me because I'd never been around kids a lot, but he was so telepathic, and I can remember some just amazing things that happened with him. Like I was in the kitchen one day and he was just toddling. I think he was about maybe 14 months old, 15 months old. And I thought to myself, I need to go back to the bedroom and get my keys and go get something out of the car. And he was in the kitchen with me, and off he goes and comes back with my keys. I was like, whoa, I better be careful what I'm thinking.
Oh yeah, that's a great example.
That's funny.
So I think that Terry Ann has that with her daughter.
I do. We're very much in sync. I've been going through a little process of grief again as the holidays are coming. And you all know Sophia, she's very independent normally, but she's been so on top of me. And so without me even having to say anything, she's like sitting on me, hugging me, holding me, touching me. I'm like, oh my gosh. So intuitively, that connection, she knows that something's going on with me internally and that she needs to be my support and come in. Plus, she was my mother in another life. So she is very much the mother protector of me.
And she has acknowledged that.
Yes.
That's important too.
You know, Michelle told me that when my daughter, when she was 4 years old, had the effrontery to make her clean up her bedroom, and she got really mad and she stamps her foot. When I was your mother, I was much nicer to you.
I love
Like,
that story.
oh, that was interesting. And it really, I can feel that because she would try to mother me, and I'm like, no, I'm your mother. I'm your
Yes.
mother.
So it's a fine line. Yeah.
I was a young mother, but I needed to be the mother.
I have that with Tim too. It's funny, something just happened yesterday. We were getting a package and it needed to be refrigerated. So I texted him that, could he go pick it up on wherever he was? And he texts me and he's like, how do you know? I just passed the house. So I'm like, there's just time to text you, you know? So we have this communication that goes on between us, and like I'll finish his sentences or he'll finish mine. So it's interesting how that all comes about when you have a soulmate in your life. My friend Leslie is like that too. Leslie will come on. There she is. So she'll come on and she'll know to call me, or I'll know to call her. And so we have this instant communication. And when I met Leslie, it was through grief, through helping parents heal. And I just could stare in her eyes for hours and hours upon end, you know. So those kind of connections, you can feel that.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of times people don't even think about the soulmate thing, and that's okay. I don't honestly think it matters to label it, but we're just talking about, you know, you can have this kind of relationship. I had this, like my second husband, who's a really great guy. Um, it's too bad our marriage could not work out, but he really liked to clean house, and I really liked that about him. Like he did it, he was a police sergeant and he liked to clean house to de-stress. And who am I to stop him, you know? So I would think, oh my gosh, you know, I totally forgot. We only have like 3 days left till we're having a party. I better do some vacuuming and dusting. And I'd come home and he goes, we only have 3 days left to the party. I did some vacuuming and dusting. And I would be like, whoa. That kind of stuff would happen all the time. So, you know, it's kind of a delightful thing. And one aspect I want to talk about this too is if you have a soul person you know is a soulmate, or you suspect is, and you think, oh gosh, we don't have that telepathic communication. I want to talk about some of the different ways that you might have it and not even know about it. And one is tending to have the same flaws because you're on the same wavelength. So even your faults can match. And that can be good and bad at the same time because it depends on the depth of the faults. But it can help you understand the other person better. Let's say you're both perfectionists, or you're both really sloppy, or you're both not detail oriented, you know, things of that sort. So you kind of understand how the other one works. That knowing what the other person is going to say, well, gosh, you know, I think that happens in most marriages. At a certain point, you just can kind of give each other a look and you know exactly what that person's thinking. It just doesn't take much. You can have a signal of something and not a word is spoken. Communicating through dreams. This happens a lot for me, but I'm a big dream person, getting psychic hits and information, predictions, but you can also communicate through dreams with a person. So has anybody here had that happen?
Yes.
How was it for you, Roz? What did you experience?
This was happening quite a bit when I was a teenager with a friend of mine who was kind of going through a really difficult time in her life. And we would dream the same dream. And I don't even remember how we realized that was happening. And it was pretty interesting because she clearly remembers it too. I mean, and this, you know, we were maybe 13 or 14. So it was pretty interesting. We also had, you know, a very telepathic connection, and she she had lost her father at a very young age. So she kind of developed a kind of like a crush on my dad a little bit. That, you know, because he was always, he would help her and her sister and her mother with things around their house or things that they needed. So it was pretty interesting. She was going through a time of big questioning, you know, of that's such a hard age, those early teenage years. And she was going through a lot of questioning of her, you know, her direction in life, I guess, at an early age. So,
God, yes. My oldest grandson's 13. Need I say more? He's at that stage.
oh yeah,
Fine.
it's
And,
just hard. That's a that, and of course that's a time of great hormonal change too, you know, and you don't know what's going on.
you know how a lot of people will say, like, oh God, someone's going to talk about their dreams. Oh, I'd rather just kill me now. I've always loved hearing about people's dreams because probably because mine have a lot of psychic content and I get messages from my angels. I see things that are going to happen. And from a psychological standpoint, so much is revealed about a person, where they are in life, where they're headed through dreams. I love hearing about dreams. So in my relationships, we talk about that. Like with my daughter, I'll be like, do you have any interesting dreams this week? Yeah, what'd you dream, Mom? And, you know, my marriages, you know, we talked about that. And um, friendships, we talk about that. And I know with Roz and I probably happened to Terry Ann too, but through the years with Roz and I've had dreams that Roz had too that were predictive type dreams about situations.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that's not, I don't know if that's so much a soulmate thing or it's just maybe a lot of psychics are getting it at the same time. I don't know, but there's been so many times I say, I had a dream about it, and she's like, I did too. So it's
I,
That'd be a
I
good
think,
study to do.
yeah, and I think one important thing to realize is I've done a lot of reading trying to really understand the physics. I mean, I understand some science and everything, and I read about different, you know, of the brainy physics people like Einstein and, you know, Max Planck and all that. But I'm not like a science wizard, okay? So I have found it very interesting. We talk about frequencies a lot and controlling your energy field and getting your energy field in a frequency where you are kind of like at your best with everything and you're very clear and you're objective. Well, the brain in the sleep process goes through numerous different frequencies too. Um, and I think there's a correlation between those frequencies and us being able to connect in a dream state. Because the funny part about when this first started happening, I don't remember my dreams very well. But I remember one clear thing is that I always used to dream in black and white. There was never any color. Now that has completely changed in the last 10 to 15 years. All the colors now are very vibrant and it's very graphic and it's usually trying to tell me a story of something that I've kind of decided those brain frequencies are trying to wake me up and go, hey, you're not getting this. Hello. Pay attention.
So I'm going to come in now during your dream and you're going to remember it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, dreams are funny too. I get a lot of dreams. My mom and I have this connection where I'll always call her or she'll call me and then she'll say, I was just going to call you. I'll say, I was just going to call you,
oh, yeah.
you know, or my brother will call at the same time that I call her too, which is annoying. So I'm like, oh my God, I just called you. And she's like, Joey's calling. I got to go. He's at work, you know, and I'm like, oh my God. She's like, you guys do that all the time. So there's this connection that, you know, even though like, have you ever like thought about somebody and they call you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've had that happen with a lot of my girlfriends. And so it's like, wow, I was just thinking about you. And it's funny how you just called me. But I usually get like this intuitive nudge, I call it, like,
Yeah.
oh, you need to reach out to this person or that person. And then they're like, oh yeah, I've been down, or I wanted to talk, or, so there's some sort of telepathic communication that's going on that they're sending out, whether consciously or subconsciously. Sometimes they don't even know that they're doing it. It could be subconscious as well, that they're sending this little intuitive nudge to me.
I think this telepathic communication is actually starting to go into people who have raised their frequency, because I think it's the way we're meant to communicate in the future. But I was going to say, my clients, this is not a soulmate thing, but just my clients that are high frequency, I will think about them. They'll just pop into my head, and I'll think about them. And within a day or two, they're calling, ready, they're setting up a session. And they said, you've been on my mind so much for a few days. And I'm like, there's something there, that those people at that frequency, I know when they're in need. I know when they're getting ready to call me. It never fails. And I find that very interesting. So this is even outside of soulmates, but soulmates in particular. And I don't want to forget to say this too, because it's definitely true of twin flames. It's just twin flames is such a rare occurrence, which is why we don't talk about it that much, because people are getting crazy about it and like, when am I going to meet my twin flame? You might not in this lifetime. It's very rare. But I want to say Roz, I know for sure, and Terry Ann are in twin flame relationships. So do you want to talk about like how that works in your twin flame relationship with a telepathic skill?
I would say that when I connected with Ed, it was actually pretty stunning to me, some of the things that occurred. And the one thing that occurred, which was actually observed, um, because it happened when Ed's sister Lisa, who was a friend of mine, um, was with us. The three of us were sitting together, and Ed and I were sitting across the room from each other. I mean, we'd encountered each other a couple times. We'd met, over at Lisa's. We looked at each other. We were sitting kind of catty corner in her living room, and we looked at each other, and there was a bolt, literally. I mean, this was like a bolt of electricity, and we both went boom like that back in our chairs, and we were like, all three of us were going, what was that? And it was an amazing experience, and it hit us both, not just in the head, it hit us in the heart. And I would say that my heart was pretty closed at that time. I was, you know I had been divorced from my ex-husband, my children's dad, for a few years, and I just really wasn't interested in getting in a relationship. And I know Terry Ann and Tim experienced this too, where like you sort of made up your mind, okay, I'm good. I'm doing fine. And then you meet this person and it's like, boom. It was stunning. It was truly stunning. And it has to be, in the realm of, some electric or electromagnetic, energy field that is going on between you. And I have read some scientific information where they talk about that at the point of conception, when you conceive your child, and there's like an electrical, they've been able to measure this, they've been able to observe it. There's like an electrical connection that happens, and it's got to be the same thing where your souls are connecting initially. So I think there's so much that goes on. You might not think you're in any, which I didn't think I was in any way, shape, or form interested in being in any more relationships. I mean, you couldn't have been more done than I was. But obviously, those who are in charge above our level had a different idea.
And what's really interesting about that, you and Ed have both told me independently that big bolt of lightning feeling, that electricity happened like the third time you met, I believe. It wasn't the first time. And it's like,
No,
oh, I wonder if your angels are like, listen, you two, do you not recognize a twin flame? Let's make this so obvious that you can't miss it.
I swear,
Bam.
both of us were practically knocked backwards in our chair. It was so strong. It just was a mind blower. And I remember Lisa was the first one who said, "What was that?"
I would love to have heard her take on that situation. Like, what did she see? Or was it what she felt?
She just was stunned. She said, I could see that. What was it?" And we're like going, "We don't know." Was so interesting. And I've talked to a number of other people that have experienced that in connecting with their twin flame. It's definitely a soul connection at a much higher level. Certainly a much higher level than anything I had ever encountered. It was stunning.
And then there's been times even with Ed, like you and I, Roz, I mean, this was probably before Terry Ann came in with us, but we'll be talking about some marketing thing we want to do. And we mention it to Ed and he's like, oh, I've been researching that for you. It's like, something that I just didn't think you'd even think of. So there's something that goes on, that just once you're clicked, you're clicked. So I don't want people thinking it's only soulmates. This, I think, is happening more commonly as well, but soulmates experience it on a more regular basis. That thing about speaking without words, I think that's a really big one where you really can look at your soulmate and just know what they're thinking and know how they're feeling. With my good friend, we've been friends almost 30 years. If she gets mad, man, I'll feel it in her energy. I will know it before anybody else has an idea, and I'm like trying to diffuse it because she's got the redhead temper, really, but she's not redheaded. But she will blow like a rocket, and I'll try to diffuse it right at that moment because that other person has no clue what's going on, but I feel it from her and I can see it. That's one of the ways I know for sure, we have that connection. And it was like the first time we met. I actually met her at my wedding, at my second wedding, and she was in charge of the facility where we had it, and we just started chatting, and I just really felt a connection with her, and she's like a little sister to me, even though we're the same age. But I'm 6 feet and she's about 5 foot, so that's why I say little sister. But another thing is just knowing things without being told, and I think that falls under that same category. Really, is just, you don't need to know. Like, you might come home, you might have a friend or a partner or whatever who just, you come home and you don't have to show it necessarily, but they just know, oh, you had a really rotten day, didn't you? Let me get you a glass of wine, let me run a bath for you or something. They just know, maybe even before you get home.
I
So
feel that
those
with
are
Tim.
some of the things that, seeing the emotions behind the false smile without trying to, just a glimpse at you, whether it's your friend, a child, a sibling, a lover, it doesn't matter. They know something's not right with you, or they know you're really excited about something, and they also know the good emotions, right? I'm sure
Yeah, it's
Tim has that
interesting.
with you, Terry Ann.
What'd you say?
I'm sure Tim has that with you.
Yeah, and I can feel his energy before he even comes home, whether he had a bad day or not, so I know how to adjust.
Yeah.
Oh, he's gonna have a bad day when he walks in the door. I knew he had a rough day.
Well,
Okay,
he
let me
knows
see what I
when
can
you're
do.
grieving really hard.
Mm-hmm.
He knows when you're having a really hard time, because you've talked about that.
Yes, he's very intuitive with, we seem to be very in sync. Like, so I call our relationship like a growing and learning relationship. He tries to give me what I need, and I try to give him what he needs. So we try to lift each other up in those ways. I don't know what would happen if we were both down at the same time. We'd be in trouble. But in the beginning, I didn't know. When we came to Sedona for the first time, I think we were dating like 3 months, and I said, we're going to live here. And at that time, he was not into any of this. He didn't understand any of it. And I felt this instantaneous connection to him when I met him. And, fast forward, here we are. But, in the beginning, I would play like this little game with him. Like I would think about him and say, I wonder if I think about him, like how long it's going to take him to call me or text me. You know, I'd like send him these telepathic messages because I wanted him to text me. So I'm like, let me see if I can do this. I really would concentrate and focus on him and visualize like his face and stuff and send him this message, text me or call me. And he would, you know, so it would take some time, but I learned how to play that game quick.
That's wonderful. I think it's also pretty amazing, like it seems in your relationship, Terry, and this is something I've been observing, is that this whole thing of how your son who's on the other side is telling you like what you need to do and you're following through, and you thought that your husband would not go along with that at all, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. So like it's also that evolving to like be okay with some things that you know you want to do and need to do, and changing, being willing to take a risk and go along with it, where they could just dig their heels in, but he knows how important it is to you, and he knows that the other things that your son has said have panned out.
Yeah, so I think that's how he's progressed. Once Anthony passed, I feel like he really had, and we had an interesting, not long after Anthony passed, but we were in bed together, and I was facing with my back towards him, and he had his arm around me, and he's like, why are you tapping me in the head? So somebody was tapping him in this, and I was like, it's not me. So Aunt was tapping him in the head, and I hear him say, unlock the door. So I'm like, he's telling you to unlock the door, Tim, you know? So we laugh about it now. But that was just like his early beginnings of starting to understand there is something else going on here, a higher power. And yes, I don't understand it, but I'm willing to trust it. So through those experiences, he's learned that, you know, if I say something like that, like we need to go on the road, he's like, okay, let's do it. So he is learning. He's come a really long way. But my friend Leslie here too, she has, her son passed, Andre, and she has a huge communication with him. They were also, I think, I get the feeling they were twin flames also. So their communication, even when he was here in the physical, was very strong and intense.
That's amazing. That's so beautiful. And Leslie, you weren't here when I was saying if you want to say something or ask a question, just put your hand up. We'll unmute you, or you can ask in the chat room, and or whatever you'd like to do. If you want to chime in, we're happy to have any of you make some comments or ask questions. A big one, I think, is feeling what that other person feels, and that's when I know with my daughter Michelle, oh my gosh, like sometimes I'll suddenly get very strong constriction in my lungs, where suddenly I feel like, oh no, bronchitis is coming in. And I have to stop, and I'm like, okay, I haven't been in cold, wet weather. I haven't been around anything I'm allergic to. What is this? Is this even mine? And I'll realize no, and I'll tune in. I'm like, oh my gosh, Michelle has bronchitis again. And I'll call her, and she's off like this because she can't even, it affects her voice. And she lives in Chicago, need I say more? So I will know when she's getting sick, or she has depression. This is no secret. We've talked about it before. So she has depression pretty badly, and I'll know. I'll start to feel sad for no reason when she's having a rough time. So I'll know to call her, and if she's even taking calls, because that's one of the things she does when she's really depressed is she withdraws. But I'll know because I'll suddenly feel that, and I know as an empath it's partly that, like I guess. But if you have a soulmate and you have empath ability, kapow, you're definitely going to feel, you might get their headaches, you might feel elation when they do, depressed when they're sad. You might suddenly feel like you're going to cry for no reason because they're crying. I get stomach aches, and I find out my oldest grandson, who's a soulmate of mine, is having some kind of stomach flu thing going. Oh my gosh, there's just so many instances of that, I can't even tell you. And I'm sure other empaths out there with soulmates are plagued with the same thing. It's like I have my own illnesses plus all of theirs.
That's what I always say. It's like, I have my own stuff. I don't need anybody else's.
No.
Gotta put yourself in the bubble.
Yep, so I have to take that out. That is not mine. Just like I would do at a mediumship reading or a psychic reading, where I start picking up those health things. I'm like, nope, no, 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 that is not mine. I'm not going to take that on.
Yeah.
And the other thing is having similar tastes and interests. I think even personality types. Like I think with you, Terry Ann and Roz, you two have a lot of similar personality types, and definitely taste and interest. I think that being in harmony with one another, people who just have a lot in common, you know, it makes it, if you're soulmates, it's more likely to be true. So it may only be one big thing that you share between you, but there's something there that's part of the tie.
That's true, I think.
I think I'm the, now I don't know, maybe Melissa will be too, but I'm the one who like is like these two like are like come to a decision or a thought and something. I'm like, I'm not getting that, or I don't feel that way.
Well, Melissa's an Aries too, I heard, so I don't know.
That's true.
Yes.
We're both Aries and I'm Virgo, so you know, I'm a grounding person.
Yes, but we seem to have that communication too, Ivory, because I remember there was a couple of times after Anthony passed and you would text me and I knew I was going through a shift and you texted me. It was in my book actually. And the next morning, I think you texted me and you're like, you had a shift.
Yeah, I did feel that. I definitely did feel that. Like came out of the blue, coming out of sleep in the morning.
Yeah, so I think, you know, you don't always, that one I'm not too sure about. I think that you can, because I have a girlfriend, Ev, in New Jersey, and we are extreme opposites. In fact, when we first met, people were like, how are you two friends? But it works. Like, she's another person. I can just like stare at her forever. We've been friends since Eric and Kyle were like in kindergarten or first grade. So it's really funny that we are so opposite, you know. So sometimes I think, so that one I'm a little unsure about. I think that you can have a soulmate relationship with somebody that's a little more opposite.
This doesn't mean that you have to have every one of these. These are 7 different signs, different ways you might have the connection, the telepathic connection. If you don't have 1 or 2 or 3 of those, does not mean you don't have a telepathic connection. So thank you for bringing that up. My friend that I was telling you about, probably my longest term friend, we are about as different as you can get, other than we both have interest in Renaissance era. That's it, really. So other than that, we have nothing in common other than our very long friendship and love for each other, which is enough. It's more than enough. And sometimes you just know a person's supposed to be in your life, and that's it.
I feel like when, you know, when Ivory and I were actually seeking at the same time, we had offices at a different location, which is a large center here, and we both were seeking at the same time a different location. And once that got verbalized, the energy of that took off. So it's really always important to remember, you know, that the people that you're connecting with, if you're, you know, if you truly get on the same frequency in terms of getting things moving and manifesting things, that can be so powerful. And we've done sessions amongst the 3 of us where we've sat down and actually had a list that we kind of developed and talked about things we want to see happening to improve the world, you know, to change the world and to change the energy around people so that they can expand their gifts and find joy and all that other stuff. So, I mean, I think that's just such an important thing, even though, you know, it's not in a soulmate, quote unquote, traditional telepathic connection. It's a different energetic connection that kind of creates the telepathic situation.
Yeah, I think anytime you have more than one person and you're doing that kind of manifestation work together, it's really powerful. And you guys did that with me. That's how you brought me in. And a couple of days later, I texted you.
That's true.
You did. I just felt the angels come in as I said that. But I remember sitting in Roz's office and we're like, we need to are we going to rent that room out or just cover the cost of that room? Because we just are done with renting to people. And Roz said, there's only one person I would consider bringing in and renting to, and that's this woman, Terry Ann, but she's not looking for a room. And we're like, darn, that sounds like it would have been perfect. And 2 days later, Terry Ann contacted Roz. Do you know of any place that's got a room for rent?
Ta-da!
And we were just like, oh my gosh.
Ta-da!
I'm still amazed. I think every time something happens, a synchronicity or something. In fact, one of Anthony's really good friends from college reached out to me, or her grandmother just died. Actually, I reached out to her. I got an intuitive nudge about connecting her with her grandma down the road. So, and she said, the first thing she said to me when she messaged me back was, I was really thinking about asking you for that. So I was like, wow, so those random thoughts we talked about this before. Those random thoughts are not just random thoughts. Like I always say, like I'm driving in the car. I get a lot of messages in the car by myself. I shut the radio off. Like today I'll take Sophia to her dad's in Anthem and it's an hour away. So I'll shut the radio off and I'll listen to any messages come through. And I'm always amazed that the words that come through or new ideas for the book or programs or stuff like that. So it is when you quiet your mind. I think that's the number one most important thing people need to start doing. And I think they have through COVID is starting to quiet your mind, getting to that place of peace and not always being so busy, go, 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 so that you can hear those messages come through.
Not always having television or music playing, because that prevents you from the quiet that necessary to hear your angels, to get your own intuitive hits. So Joni, did you have a question or something you want to say?
No.
I'm going to mute your mic just because I'm getting a little bit of feedback. So if you want to, just let me know. I'll unmute it again. And I'm glad, Tyrion, that you said something about that, because again, if you have a soulmate and you want to have telepathic communications with them, you two can consciously work on that. And Terry Ann was talking about it like she would practice with her husband before when they were dating, just sending him a message. You can consciously do that with your soulmates and say, let's work on a telepathic communication, and just send a message. And you can even say at a certain time, I'm going to send you a message and tell me what you received, if anything, and practice that with each other. And the thing about these kind of skills is most people give up far too soon to master it, to even get a good hold on it. You can't try it one or a few times and say, oh, I'm not good at this. It's a muscle you're developing. So consider it like you've never done a workout and now you're starting this workout for telepathy. So it's practice, practice, practice. And some people are going to be super receptive, and some they're going to have to work on quieting their mind more. So maybe, one other thing you could do if you're having trouble getting that between the two of you is have one or both of you practice meditation on a daily basis too, just to really learn how to quiet your mind completely when you want to send or receive messages.
I feel like we, during this time of the pandemic, even though it's been really nerve-wracking for people, I feel like we've been offered a big opportunity to do just that, to put things on slow-mo. And I was reading an article, I don't know, within the last couple of weeks, where this person was talking about how they used to be in a situation in Southern California where they had to commute an hour and a half each way, minimum. I mean, that was on a good day to get to work. So now they're working from home, and how it altered everything about their life. So I think we have to kind of consciously remind ourselves, that everything is an opportunity, really. Even sometimes things that don't seem to be good, it's my thing, I guess. My everything is working out for your highest and best good mindset. But it's really true. I mean, there are opportunities for change, opportunities for growth, opportunities to create these psychic connections that we have telepathically in everything. So we have to remind ourselves to be on the lookout for that. And
Otherwise, you could be so busy and things are so loud that you miss these things that are happening, that you don't even notice them.
I feel like this has been a very positive time in many ways. It's been a very stressful time, in more ways than one. I mean, we have a lot of controversy, rage, depression. You know, people are experiencing a lot right now. And you have to be careful telepathing or connecting empathically with that too, because, you know, this is something that my daughter, who's incredibly telepathic, struggles with. You know, she said, like, I go out and I'm getting out of the house and I'm running. She's a runner. And I come back and I feel a little better because of the exercise that I've been able to get, but I also I know I'm feeling other people's sorrow and their depression, you know, and it affects her.
That's that empath thing. And I know when there's a lot of people angry, there's been so much anger and hostility lately that I'll come home sick to my stomach from a trip to the grocery store. It's been a little better in the last few weeks, but prior to that, I would feel um, like I'd been punched in the stomach and I didn't even want to go out. So it's been pretty tough.
I get myself geared up in my white light bubble and, you know, I can send energy out to other people, but I'm, you know, always asking that I be shielded from the energies that would impact me in that way.
Usually that
Because
works for me too, but lately it's been so bad that it's just punching right through it. So,
yeah,
but that's an
really
empath
hard.
thing again, not a telepathic thing. But I don't know. Any questions coming up about this or anything else that you want to add about it? No? I thought for sure some of these ladies here with us would have some examples of that in their life. Nothing you want to share? That's okay. You never have to. Terry Ann and Roz, do you have anything else you want to add to today's topic?
Just, I think, you know, be kind of like be conscious, be in your consciousness and realize all of the things that we've talked about today are, you know, these are incredibly impactful, all of them in our lives. And our connections, our telepathic connections especially, are so important. So be tuned in. I
Yes.
always tell people I'm like an antenna. I'm just tuning in.
Ah, so I want to thank you for watching the Sedona Soul Sisters show today. And if you want more information about us and our services, visit our website, sedonasoulsisters.com. You are welcome to send questions. If you're watching this later on YouTube and you have questions, the email address is in the description of the show there on YouTube. Feel free to send your questions in. We also welcome suggestions of new topics. Happy to do that. So tune in next week. Our subject is psychic predictions. We decided we're going to do that quarterly, and we'll probably also do it at the beginning of the new year, like a special edition. So if you have questions you'd like us to answer, psychic prediction questions, feel free to send those to us by email ahead of time, and we'll answer those in the show as well as the ones that we've gotten individually. So in the meantime, have an enlightening week.
Bye.